Hello, everybody. Welcome to the weekend edition of Nightlight Astrology. I'm Alex Amorosi here with Alexandra Blair and Whitney Krantz, and we are going to go over, I think, somewhat of a more fun topic today. We're going to talk about Jupiter, which we have not talked about in a very long time, but we're going to make a whole episode today based on Jupiter's moving through Cancer over the next year and how is sort of stitching together a part of the zodiac that has been deeply affected by Mars in the beginning of the year. But before we get into it, as Adam likes to say, please go to nightlightastrology.com for all your nightlight astrology needs. If you would like to take one of Adam's classes, go on his awesome looking retreat, which by the way, I looked on his website. I was like, that looks amazing. The retreat, like
Seriously.
seriously amazing.
So beautiful.
And hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Um, we're just so grateful to be here and that Adam has given us this platform to interact with you guys. So just, it's really wonderful to support his work and his channel. We've all benefited from it greatly. So without further ado, the beginning of the year, if you guys didn't know, was colored by Mars. You probably heard about it everywhere you went. Even when you weren't watching astrology, people were probably being like, have you heard about Mars and how it colors the entire year? So it was a very, very powerful, very, let's just say, rocky beginning to the year astrologically. What has just happened in the middle of this week that we're recording, so this is in the last week of August, was Jupiter has now moved officially into the degrees on which Mars was doing its retrograde. This, I think, is going to feel really, really nice. So let me just draw up the chart here. We'll take a look. So Mars is retrograde. Now, again, you guys have probably heard tons about Mars. You've gone over it. We're not going to go over the whole path and take you all the way back through the beginning of the year. Just show you that Mars's path of retrograde was from 17 degrees of Cancer up through 6 degrees of Leo. Jupiter moved on to 17 Cancer last Wednesday and is now going to be traversing this part of the zodiac from now up through the end of next July, so July 31st of 2026. I'm thinking about this and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, you guys, as something that looks very hopeful from a sort of technical astrology point of view. Mars was kind of tearing into the fabric of this part of Cancer over the course of the very end of 2024 and all the way basically up through the beginning of 2025. Jupiter comes in and does the exact opposite. So what Mars was cutting apart, or Mars was making feel more unsafe, or Mars was making feel kind of like dramatic, or even kind of kind of like poking and prodding at a very like very sensitive part of the zodiac. Jupiter comes in with this very cohesive energy that feels like it's starting to sew things back together. And Jupiter also, in addition to that point, is going to really start to take over a much more powerful role here at the end of the year. You can see today on September 1st when we're recording, Jupiter is now responsible for Saturn for the next 4 months. Saturn's moved back into Pisces. Neptune will join Saturn in October. Jupiter is also in a superior aspect. So, whenever you're looking, for those of you that are studying astrology, whenever you're looking at a chart, the planet to the right has the superior aspects of the planets to the left. It's exerting its influence on the planets to the left. So, basically, all the inner planets are going to be under a superior influence from Jupiter from the rest of the year as they move through Libra, as they move through Scorpio, and then when they move into Sagittarius, they'll be under Jupiter's rulership. Saturn and Neptune are under Jupiter's rulership. The moral of the story is Jupiter takes on a much more expansive and much more powerful role as we move into October, November, and December. Does that mean everything's perfect all of a sudden? No, but it does, I think, provide a much more buoyant feeling and a pretty healing feeling, especially considering going over Mars's path. What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to note that feeling of buoyancy and support is echoed as particularly the planets go through Scorpio, late Scorpio. It's like Mars, Mercury, the Sun, Venus. Mercury actually does even a retrograde from early Sagittarius back to late Scorpio. And so there is a series of like water trines where Jupiter is trining that stuff in Scorpio. The stuff in Scorpio is trining Saturn in Pisces, then Neptune in Pisces. It starts in mid October and it goes all the way kind of through mid December. So I feel like that buoyancy and that support from the exalted Jupiter is honestly pretty sweet. I totally agree with you, Alex. I think that it's very different than what was happening with Mars in Cancer, which felt inflammatory, particularly in the body. Like I heard from a lot of clients and friends about so much
Mm,
inflammation and physical, just like stress in the body in Cancer. Um, I think that's actually interesting. You pointed out that Mars, started retrograding at 6 Leo, which Mars had that weird inflammatory, aggressive stuff going on in Leo too, even though it's kind of happy in Leo, but we had those two Pluto oppositions across Leo and Aquarius as well. So what Mars did this year, very unique. I keep calling that like in Peaky Blinders, like the bleak midwinter. That's how I'm thinking about what that was. And now, one thing I just wanted to comment on, in addition to all of that, is that I think what I've been hearing from a lot of friends and clients is some disgruntledness about Jupiter. Like, I think people are not sure about their relationship with Jupiter. And Jupiter is one of those planets that is not always kind, sunshine, daisies, sweetness, and beauty. Like, especially around that Venus Jupiter conjunction, I was just hearing from so many people, hey, nothing incredible happened to me. Why did every astrologer say something incredible was going to happen to me? And so, your point about coalescing, though, I think is really brilliant, Alex, because even if it's not that Jupiter comes in and you just get lucky and you get money and you get support coming out of the woodwork, it's like what Mars was doing was like this chaotic, boundless, inflammatory thing that was sort of like making our vision wavy. Whereas Jupiter, maybe it's not bringing in that abundance that we like to think of for Jupiter, but it is coalescing and it is making our problems and what's going on in our life more visible for us and actually bringing it into focus. Like I feel like that's been a major feature of Jupiter in Cancer so far. What are you thinking, Whitney?
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you literally took the notes right from my little notepad over here because I this year have also I think we've all experienced, well, I won't say us all, but I think many of us have experienced sort of that little Jupiterian letdown maybe that Alexandra you were mentioning, right? Like we expect this big beautiful disco ball of glittering wonder, and here we are, really. Jupiter is almost like presenting a magnifying glass in this area, right? We're also fairly early in this Jupiter journey. In November, Jupiter is going to station retrograde, right? Still in Cancer and still going through and that gives us a perspective of sort of where we are in this lesson. I mean, I don't think I can add a whole lot to the Mars in Cancer story. I think you've both told that story beautifully. But I think that for many of us, right, if Cancer is this place of nurturance and care, that Mars in that place maybe brought up some themes of scarcity, right? Scarcity around how we can care for ourselves and those around us. And even some of these like unconscious behaviors associated with that scarcity. And so it's exactly right. Like Jupiter supporting and healing that work right now? Or like right now on September 1st or September 6th when the world is listening to it, to this? Or is Jupiter magnifying more than anything? Like I think what we're looking at, because it's Jupiter, is through this lens of optimism, right? But we know we got to do the work first, right? And so that's why this is magnifying this area and presenting this for us, right? Like the magnifying glass to the unconscious behaviors that may have been drudged up through Mars in Cancer.
I really love these points, you guys, because I feel like When you hear, especially when you study a lot of astrology, you hear the greater benefic in Jupiter.
Otherwise,
Like, I
man,
feel
good to
like
see
when
you,
you
brother.
study ancient astrology, everybody's mad if they don't have Jupiter in Sagittarius. They're like, my life is screwed if I don't have Jupiter in Sagittarius because that's the strongest Jupiter or whatever. And I will assure you, I've seen plenty of charts with Jupiter in Sagittarius with some pretty tough stuff that has happened to people. It doesn't always mean subjectively amazing experiences, but it does often mean more order, trying to making sense of things, um, tying things together. It can also, I think it can also lead to gains, but remember also that Jupiter's entrance into Cancer was deeply colored by the square to Saturn in Aries. And there's something to me about that too. It was just occurring to me this morning as I was thinking about, recording this with you guys, of how I think the gains that we have with Jupiter this year are also equal to or proportional to the things that we're willing to lose or let go of with Saturn. There's something about a sort of seesaw relationship there that I was kind of seeing in my mind intuitively of like Saturn is bringing you to the limit of something. And just like Jupiter isn't always bringing you, the gift bag all the time, or at least not the gift bag you thought. Saturn isn't always taking the gift bag away. Sometimes Saturn is showing the limit of something. It's saying this has reached its end. This has to end in order for this new, coherent, more orderly beginning to start. And what I'm also thinking of too is, Mars in Cancer also breaks down for me into a general feeling of feeling unsafe in places that should feel safe,
Hmm.
feeling on edge in places you shouldn't have to feel on edge. I think that's one of the reasons, we were associated with tough stuff that's happened in families or in childhood. There's certain places where you would hope that you would have the support and nurturance that you would need, but sometimes and often we don't get. And Jupiter to me is a little bit of that, at least either making sense of those experiences, whether they are actual experiences or, like you were saying, Alexandra, like something in the body that was inflamed that you begin to understand it more now or make sense of it more, or an actual trauma or something that had come up or was brought to the surface around that time. One of the most important aspects of that healing is making meaning and making sense. And maybe even working with people to help that happen. And I wonder if Jupiter is helping us in a feeling of safety, not necessarily in this way of just like, well, everything just is perfectly externally perfect all of a sudden. But like, I'm beginning to make sense of, or meaning of, or understanding of something that had come up at the beginning of the year. But those are
Hmm.
just some things that are coming up around that for me too.
No, I absolutely agree because Mars, in pretty much all my client work, I love talking about Mars. Mars is the type of planet that is an affliction, especially if you don't give Mars an outlet in your life. If you have a healthy outlet for your Mars, Mars is not happening to you. It's part of what you're doing in the world. But Mars in an unhappy, like bouncing around in Cancer, I think at the time on our monthly overview, Whitney, we talked about it. We were like, it's like getting a shipment of pillows, but there's like a knife somewhere in the box of pillows. You're just like, ooh, I don't want that. And it feels like an affliction. It doesn't always feel like there's some causality. It doesn't always feel like there's a reason for things that are happening to you. And sometimes bad things happen to good people when a planet like Mars is in a place like Cancer. That doesn't mean that the same can't be true for Jupiter, but Jupiter feels like if we as astrologers see that Jupiter is in play, you can almost always say, like, hey, there's something happening for the greater good. There's some faith here, there's some tie here. This isn't just madness happening for madness sake. Like if somebody tells me, something really difficult happened to them and Mars is at play, sometimes it's just straight up an affliction that's happening to you. Um, Something else I was thinking about that Mars and Cancer time was that it had this quality of like feral, like clawing, trying to grasp and claw our way into joy. Like this winter, I kept hearing this word desiccated from people, like we're just so dehydrated and hopeless feeling during that winter time, especially that full moon in Cancer that happened,
Mm.
let's say like January 13th or 15th. Might have been
Yeah.
13 or 15 degrees though, but that was the peak. That was when that Mars retrograde was the closest to Earth. And it was so visible in the night sky. And there was just this feral sense of like fighting your way back to something or like fighting for hope. And now I feel like there is also something quite analogously feral about Jupiter in Cancer. So a lot of people are saying, like, oh, it's the goddess energy. For me, I think about like Zeus as being this like wild animal, sometimes literally a wild animal, and like the jealousy feelings and the power and being a conduit and the lightning. It's a very empowered flip of that same function, which is like, "Urgh." And when Mars was in Cancer, it was like clawing in the dirt. And now that Jupiter is there, it's kind of like amassing this sort of like lightning power. And it feels just as potent, but possibly, quite possibly, much more constructive. And like there's possibly an optimistic outcome for what's going on there.
Oh my gosh, I love, Alexandra, that you brought Zeus into the conversation. Obviously, Zeus is Jupiter, and the sign of Cancer, the sign of the moon, this is Artemis's realm. Artemis is the daughter of Zeus. Artemis is in herself a wild woman. She's protectively fierce, right? And so there's something to that energy. It's like when Zeus and Artemis get together, it's like wild, it's like lightning, right? And I really appreciate the conversation around what Mars was doing there in Cancer and the desiccation of it, right? Because this chart I have with Mars moving through Cancer, it was like a tear in the dam, like it was like water leaking out, right? And the the ground then is just soaked dry because the dam has been burst, right? And so Jupiter is like coming in to repair that, to patch the dam, right? And I can't help but see that with Jupiter in this trine relationship right now to Saturn and soon Neptune, when Neptune retrogrades back into Pisces. That is that like mending the dam, being able to contain maybe a well of emotions or the feeling of loss that we had while Mars was in
Oh,
Cancer.
what's up, Big
I
Toad? How are
mean,
you, brother?
I'm just saying the same thing, right? We're putting it all back together, and I can't help
Oh
but
man, I
notice
want to see
that
my love.
Saturn and
Oh,
Neptune are such a
hey,
part of this. Like I mentioned
hey,
it
my
earlier, but
love.
when Saturn retrogrades too in the middle
Hey,
of
my love, how are you,
November,
babe? I'm so
that's
glad you're here.
happening
Thank
in
you,
an
sweetie.
exact trine
Oh,
with
darling, how are
Saturn
you?
and Neptune. And it's part of those, what we talked about earlier, these massive water trines that start occurring in mid October. And it just makes for like a beautiful sense of creativity of what we're now able to bring forth in this area.
I love that because it's like, the water trines. So if we're setting this up here, friends, this is October 22nd. You can see Jupiter will be trining Mars and Mercury will in Scorpio, and they will be trining Saturn, and very, very widely Neptune and Pisces. So they're forming this beautiful grand water trine here. And I think like creativity is so interesting to bring up, Whitney, because also it's like emotional creativity, which we would call in the water signs, right? This
Hmm.
realm of feeling and emotion often is sometimes the only way to express something. In other words, like, we've talked a lot in the last few episodes about Mercury and analyzation and thought and rationality and, discernment and all of those things that are sort of the function of the psychological rational mind. But we're getting into territory in the fall where things are expressed more in dreams, more in art, more in music. There's certain things like I remember when I was starting composition classes in college, classical music composition classes. There were certain things at that point in my life I could only express musically. I didn't have the vocabulary and I didn't have the emotional maturity yet to express, especially the darker feelings and the stuff that was really kind of running under the surface. And I feel like one of the we make sense of things in a lot of ways, and with these grand water trines that are going to start to arise over the course of October, there feels to me an opportunity. Like the shadow of that Mars retrograde is long, but it also brought up things that may not have been able to be necessarily analytically or cognitively understood. It may require some level of like some kind of art therapy, whether it's an actual art therapy or it's just doing art for yourself, or it's some kind of creativity that flows more from the space of it just feels right to express this. This color just feels right. This note just feels right. Even just writing this poem feels right. I don't know where it's coming from. That's the feeling I get with these grand water trines, and particularly with Jupiter sort of heading them up in a lot of ways, making sense of that because Jupiter will be trining Mars, and Mars in one of its home signs in Scorpio at that point. And there's something to me there about over this fall into December, like this continual handoff between from Mars to Jupiter, and this feels like a significant moment of that. But of coming from a place that's much less, much more conceptual and a little less specific.
Yeah, it's definitely more intuitive than intellectual, which is interesting because these water trines, of course, follow those air trines. And to some extent, that air trine situation is going to be active for quite some time. And we're coming up on the period this year where Pluto and Uranus are the closest they get to that trine before it perfects next summer. So there's an interesting interplay. I don't know that it's tension because it's all aversion between the water and the air spots. So it just feels like an interplay in some ways between our intellect and our intuition. But Alex, you're talking about using colors and your intuition in this way and using art and creativity. I think there's also a social knowledge when I think about the water signs, especially with Saturn at play. I always think about, and I talk to clients about Saturn for women as being related to like the three chapters of womanhood, mother, maiden, crone, archetypally. And women in particular experience menopause. So women have a biological function that isn't just childbearing, rearing, and they actually have a function. We have a function that is like carrying wisdom into the last third of our life, and that is our job. And so for me, when I look at this and I see all this water, especially with like the stuff, the transits are moving through Scorpio. The slow planets are in the other places, slowing it down to that Scorpio still water level. The fast planets are in Scorpio. So it actually feels like there's like a movement happening there. And so I think a lot about ancestry and ancestor work. I hear a lot from people like, I don't even know how to get started with ancestor work, which I can totally empathize with. And when I started doing that, I had no sense of how I was connected to anyone before me further back than my grandma. I have one grandma, you know? And that's actually just how I started. I just put up a picture of my grandma and she loves Diet Coke. So sometimes I would just put a Diet Coke next to the picture. And like, that's how I started. And now I have this whole like ancestral practice. That's a part of what I do. So I'm kind of thinking of that too, like dredging up that wisdom. Particularly, it's like a feminine, watery wisdom in this archetypal way. Again, not necessarily in an explicitly gendered way, but I think that's really coming up here for me too.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I love how you speak to our ancestral lineages with this. I think that right now, in a time of so much change, I mean, progress, of course, we can see the progress that is happening in the world right now, like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at a time when we are looking into the future and seeing all of our infinite possibilities, it's so beautiful when we can tap into that water, tap into that wisdom, and ground ourselves back into those practices. Like, I love that you bring that up, and it makes me smile because it's something that I didn't plan to discuss at all. But like, there's a reason why when I talk about my gods, I say my personal pantheon, because who sits in my personal pantheon? My grandmother, my great grandmother. And I think about the experiences that these people went through in their lives, and I mean, I won't go into it here, but there's some crap in the past, the things that were done to women who did not follow the normal path, right? We all are aware of this, and I think that as we look forward, Jupiter in this situation, in this watery trine, is helping us move into it with that sense of past that we take into our hopes and our dreams and our trust and our belief, right? It helps us integrate and reconcile all those lessons that we've been learning.
Because, and Cancer is so much a sign of ancestry and family, and the importance, and often the importance of that, or something that happened within, if there's an affliction to the sign, then there's something within that disrupted it or made it, you know, difficult in some way, great or small. And I think that I just love where you guys are going with this, because I feel like there's such a there's such a tendency sometimes, I think, to be very linear forward about healing. Like, I'm going from this place where I am to this place in the future where I will be healed, and not realizing, like, one of my energy work teachers years ago would teach me, she taught me so much, it like blew my mind. She's like, healing is really multi-directional. It's something that goes forward and backward in time and also radiates out into the now. And I think that there's something powerful here about being able to express oneself in ways one might not have been able to, or your ancestors may not have been able to. That I think, in ancestral healing, is sometimes you're healing aspects of yourself that have been influenced by ancestors that could not do or could not be in a position to heal or work through or have the means to do that, what you can right now. But there's something that you honor in them when you do that, when you do that kind of healing yourself. There's something, if you're able to, that it radiates in a lot of directions. And I think that you could see that maybe as a little bit of a stretch, but you could see that as part of Jupiter too. That Jupiter expands that, Jupiter radiates that, Jupiter exudes. What Saturn pulls into itself, Jupiter exudes. And I'm wondering too what you guys think as we get later into the year, we get up into mid-December. There will be a period of time, just a few days, where Jupiter is then hosting all of the inner planets. So Mercury, Venus, the Sun, and Mars all in Sagittarius, and in Jupiter's home sign of Sagittarius. That'll be for a couple days, around from like December 11th up to probably about December 16th. But there will be a period of time where all of those planets are moving through Sagittarius, hosted by Jupiter. And I really, it makes me think of this idea of the beliefs and the stories that we tell and that we're told. And sometimes they're consciously told through family and ancestry, and sometimes they're unspoken. And when you're doing energy work with ancestry, a lot of times you'll discover that there were sort of unspoken beliefs, unspoken rules, or unspoken philosophies that were handed through the family, or a specific side of the family, or a specific gender of the family, that haven't actually come to light. And when you bring them to light and you see how they've had effect on you and people, in your past, there's an opportunity to change or rewrite the script in some way. And I'm wondering, not just on these few days happening in December, but I think Jupiter having now basically all the planets except for the moon and Uranus and Pluto under its sort of rulership for these days, there's an opportunity of kind of rewriting something or re-understanding something that feels pertinent to ancestry and family, that sort of thing.
Definitely. Alex, I think you tied something together that Whitney was talking about too. Like, Whitney, you were talking about zooming in, and is the most basic function I've seen astrologically of Jupiter that we can rely on. Like, you can't always say good with Jupiter. Can't always say this. You can always say it's going to make something bigger. Every time you see a Jupiter transit, whatever it's touching is going to be bigger. And if that's tough in your chart, it's going to be big tough. And if it's great in your chart, it's going to be big great. And that is like the personal natal work everybody needs to do. Like, do you have a night chart? Jupiter might be a little more challenging, and look into that stuff. But you also touched on something really interesting when you talk about clearing out family karma or ancestral stuff. Like, it sounds so good when we say it like that. I'm going to clear out my family's karma. Like, we never think of the work of that. We never think of the crisis and the drudgery and the reckonings and the dark, dark, dark nights wading through that stuff that is required. We just think, like, yeah, I want to clear out my family's karma. And that is why people struggle with Jupiter, where you think, yeah, I want to have more faith. I want to have more connection to the gods. I want to have more spiritual awakenings. And you don't think about all the like sweaty, crazy nights where you're just like having terrifying dreams and having those crises that lead to that stuff. Um, and I think that's really important. And your question about the Sagittarius period, I just love that. I always think about babies that are going to be born around that time. I'm like, I actually think that aversion between Sagittarius and Cancer might be helpful because, too much like too jovial becomes a jovial person, but that would be like a person armed with jovial weapons, like pointed directly at their family's karmic history. It's like actually like a helpful aversion, I think.
Oh my God. I love that. It's funny because when you pulled this up, I was like, now that is a solar return. Whose birthday is this? And then
Yeah.
I looked at December 12th. I was like, oh, that's one of my ex's birthdays.
Oh, nice.
Well,
No,
we'll be tying up some karma with that, Whitney.
nope. That is firmly in the past.
Yeah.
Not so nice. But what you're showing here actually is reoccurring throughout all of these deep winter signs over the next few months. Like December through February, it's wild. All of these planets, I mean, we know they follow the sun, but this alignment continues where we have these stelliums recurring in Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, right? And isn't it interesting when we look at the rulers of those signs that we are focusing so much both Jupiterian and Saturnian energy in those houses of our charts, and it really describes what is all happening here with these sort of new formations that we are working through, whether healing old wounds, right, and growing in the right direction. It's all this work.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CBS Evening News. My name is Tim Dillon. I want to first start by thanking Barry Weiss for giving me the opportunity to sit here with you at the iconic CBS News desk and deliver the news. CBS is a great American institution. I also want to speak directly to people who feel that there may be some changes coming at CBS or that the network isn't going to be recognizable. Nothing could be further from the truth. Here at CBS, we have a journalistic commitment to integrity, giving you both sides or all sides of every issue that matters to you. Barry is committed to delivering fearless, unbiased journalism, and she is incredibly aware of what a shill you people think she is, but she is not. She is not a shill, and nor am I. I want to thank the Ellison family. I want to thank Paramount. I want to thank everybody who invested severely in me and Barry and the whole team at the Free Press. The investments made were intense. They were severe. And I want to thank everyone who took hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to make sure that you are getting fearless, unbiased news coverage from a team that's only agenda is the truth. Our only agenda is the truth. That is the biggest thing that we are trying to do here. We are not trying to come on here and spin and say, hey, you anti-Semite pigs, eat your slop. We're not trying to say that. We're trying to say the world is very big. And there's a lot of people that have a lot of opinions that need to be corrected. And here at CBS News, we are going to devote every waking minute of our day to correcting all of you very nicely. You're barely going to notice it's happening. You're barely going to notice we're there. So for Tim Dillon, and the thing about the beard, which makes it so difficult, is that it really does. I have sensitive skin, and it's very hard to speak in this beard. We got this, what is this, a Hasidic Jew costume at Spirit Halloween?
A rabbi.
This is a rabbi costume at Spirit Halloween. To, of course, by the way, it's a happy day. It's a great day. We're celebrating this day. It's a national holiday. It's, I believe, the day that the Free Press, Barry Weiss's blog, was bought for $1 trillion. It is now valued at what PetroChina is valued at. And she will be taking over CBS News. So the oldest and most vulnerable members of our society will be getting news directly from Barry Weiss, who's a friend of mine who I like. I tend to like these types. I really do. And I enjoy her, and I wish her well, and I'm wishing her the best. I know that it seems like we're poking fun here, and we are a little bit, because let's be honest, CBS is about to just become God only knows. I mean, it's going to be, number one, it's tranny TV, so they're going to talk about is gender goblinism, and then they're going to talk about Israel. Most likely, that's what it's going to oscillate. It's going to oscillate between somebody on the girls' swim team has a cock, which is their big issue, and then also, hey, how good of a job is Netanyahu doing? Good or great? What say you? You know, so you're going to have all of those debates. You know, how best to kill a Palestinian? Should it be quick? We don't know. So you're going to have all of that at CBS News. CBS News. Very interesting that the establishment is now, you know, Barry Weiss was somebody who was like way outside the mainstream. She worked at the New York Times and then left, right? Because like they went super woke, and she was like persona non grata, and she then launched her own thing, and she's very independent in the sense that she wasn't linked to, you know, Viacom or you know, AP, Associated Press, or any of these conglomerates, these big media companies. So she started the Free Press, but she had a lot of backing. She had a lot of financiers come in that backed her very early on with a lot of money that pumped her up. And she created the Free Press. Again, full disclosure, I've done events with them. They've paid me very well one time. And I've done events with them, and I enjoy her. And I think she's charming and smart. Is Barry Weiss interested in a unbiased look at the Middle East? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. Perhaps not. And I think that maybe that's what's bothering the staffers at CBS, because CBS is an old. Now, you remember who watches CBS. People that watch CBS, their entire night is getting from the kitchen to the chair. The entire night of an average viewer of CBS is getting from the kitchen to the chair. They make a plan to get from the kitchen to the chair. They walk into the kitchen. They're in the kitchen. They find some type of food that they believe their system can still handle after all of these years. They eat a little bit of that food, and then they migrate. It's migration. It's like a refugee, coming from Cuba to Florida, except they're just trying to get to their chair in their living room, and then they turn on the CBS Evening News, okay? Again, the median age of a primetime viewer of CBS is 67.8, almost 68 years old. But by the way, that's the median. So we know that there's far older as well. And the people that are watching CBS are elderly people who they kind of don't know what's going on. Let's be honest. So I think maybe they're trying to bring in Barry to like make it young and hip. They're trying to she's going to jazz it up and make it like younger and hipper and like cooler and whatever. And then also provide the old people the content they want, which is, predominantly fear-based and misleading. And as long as the content remains fear-based and misleading, it will be good content. And they will eat it up until they go on that final pilgrimage to wherever. But we congrats to Barry. A great gig. CBS is an old clunker of a car. Nobody who's young respects it. Nobody's getting their news anymore from cable that is under 40. Nobody is reading these papers anymore. Half the time, I read them because I have this dumb show. Most people are getting their news directly now from a person who's being bombed. That's who's the news is now. The news is directly from someone who's literally being bombed at the moment. Like, there is no more article about the bombing. Someone whose family just got incinerated in a fire is on a phone telling you what happened. Please help me! Help me! So there's not a ton of editorializing to be done now. We're just getting it directly from the horse's mouth. Like, the people that are being skinned alive in their homes, burnt to death, heads exploding, in a kind of a hurricane of fire and an inferno, skin melting, eye sockets out. Those are the people that are now on the phone telling you what your government is funding. Okay, so that's even. I got to get rid of this because it's even. It's kind of bothering my neck even. And I feel like with the beard, it feels anti-Semitic. But it's not. It's actually, by the way, here's what's funny about this whole thing. Truly, this is actually funny. It's actually funny. There's nothing less anti-Semitic than what I'm doing. Stacking 2 bagels to represent the Twin Towers, having managed to have its wine, and dressing in this costume is actually the least anti-Semitic thing anyone has ever done. So, and that's what's funny about the world is you see it and immediately go, oh my God, I bet that's that's offensive and crazy. But this is the type of thing the free press should be defending, right? We hope the free press is defending this and sharing this clip. We imagine the free press will be sharing this clip. Yes, yes, or yes. Laughing at life is easier when you actually feel good. Between processed foods, environmental toxins, and the stress of just existing in today's world, feeling run down has become the norm. But your body wasn't meant to feel this way. Armor colostrum is nature's original superfood. Packed with over 400 bioactive nutrients that fortify gut health, supercharge immunity, fuel stamina, revitalize hair growth, and help you function at your best once again, because keeping up with the chaos of modern life is a lot more fun when you have the energy to do it. We worked out a special offer for my audience. Receive 30% off your first subscription order. Go to armor.com/Tim or enter TIM to get 30% off your first subscription order. That's ARMRA.com/Tim. That's ARMRA.com/Tim. But the news now has gone from like a guy, and he'd be sitting at a desk, and he'd be a good-looking guy like David Muir. Get up the picture of David Muir because he's a hottie. And he's not purely white. There's something else going on. And you kind of imagine him at a bar, and he's having a glass of scotch, and then a woman walks in, maybe like a Catherine Zeta-Jones, back in the day, not now. I know she's older now. And David Muir is at a bar, and he's that type of guy that you imagine nailing like a Hollywood A-lister. He's just a good-looking guy, and he has that face that seems like he cares. And then that guy would get on the news, and he would go, the continued conflict in the Middle East has been incredibly deadly and unfortunate. And the people in their houses would go, yeah, well, that sucks. That's tough. You know, that's a sad thing. And now, but you're kind of removed from it because you don't really know what's going on. And then they'd show they'd show some bombs, there'd be some lights. There'd be some things going on and off. And you'd go, yeah, that's bad. And then he'd go, the terrorism that is being, the terrorists. And they would say that word a lot. They would be like, the terrorism and the terror. And then you go, right. Terrorists. Yeah, got to root them out, get them, smoke them out of their hole. Remember all the George W. Bush? Got to smoke them out of their holes, get them, got them good, get them, root them out. Bush was the first one after this whole thing happened. He goes, they're going to have to do some things, not be too nice. George W. Bush came out and was like, yep, I'm no fan of terrorists. And he's like, you're going to have to go into these places, and it's not because it's guerrilla warfare. And listen, some of that is understandable, inevitable. We get it. It is not nice. You know, guerrilla warfare in cities is not pretty. The Pentagon's planning, by the way, if you read what the Pentagon's planning, they're planning to have it here. And it's not nice. And they're planning actually to have it here. The Pentagon for many, many years has been looking at what happens when the population just gets a little too excited. But you would have a guy like David Muir, and he'd be out there, and there'd be this filter, and you would be understanding what's happening in a geopolitical context, right? A geopolitical context. Like you'd be understanding, like, that there are things that are beyond our understanding that can't really be fleshed out fully here. We're just going to use words that give you the idea that it's terrible and unfortunate, and it's a prolonged. That's one of the prolonged. It's a prolonged conflict. It's a terrorism and extremism, radical terrorism, extremism, prolonged conflicts, terrorism, civilians, sadly, death, and all of these things. And it just and again, you're 70, you're watching the news, you know what I mean? The pill's kicking in, and you're coming back and forth. There's a piece of pie that's lodged in your esophagus that isn't going down. It's breaking down in the lower range of your esophagus, so you're breathing through the pie, and you're going. And then intermittently, David Muir's coming in and explaining Gaza to you, and that was the news. Now the news is your daughter comes home, because nobody used to care about anything, by the way. Kids didn't care about anything, ever. No one cared about anything. I was a child. No one really cared. Nobody was engaged. 16-year-old girls were not screaming about colonialism in 1997. That's not what was going on. But now how you get the news is your daughter comes in and she's really upset about something she saw on TikTok. And then she goes, "Look at this." And then she hands you the phone. And then you're watching, there's a girl on TikTok, and she's like standing on a mound of rubble, okay? And she's going, "My family was burned. They were burned alive. Can you come get me? My family was burned." And then you have to explain to your daughter, you got to go, "Honey, there's always people being burned alive in our world." "What do you mean?" "Honey, you're so lucky. That's why I tell you to never complain about anything. You're so lucky to get on a bus in our little, Pacific Northwest suburb with our crisp air and our alpine lakes. And you're so lucky to get on a bus and go to a school and have your biggest problem be that Sarah doesn't want to be friends with you anymore. I tell you, friendships, they change. People grow apart, and then sometimes they reconnect later on. Remember when we had that talk? You're so lucky that that's your biggest problem, because there's many people your age that are being burned alive right now in their homes. They're being burned alive in their homes, and they're watching their parents burn. And the thing about fire is that you scream while you're being burned, honey. This is something that people don't realize, but actually, while you're engulfed in flames, you are still screaming, and you can still hear it. And it's a terrible way to die, to be burned alive while you still scream. And that's happening all over the world all the time. And honey, and why is it happening? Why can't it stop? Why are we funding it? Why don't you care? Hey, calm down. The world is very complicated and very big. It's a big world. The world is very big. And in a big, complicated world where there's lots of different people, some of them are going to burn each other alive. Some of them are going to cook each other in pots. And there's just not much we can do about it. But what I'd like you to do is stop getting so upset about it. And then this is why they had to ban TikTok. They don't care about your kids' mental health, by the way. They don't. All they give them is poison little waffle bites. I mean, that's all children are given from the time in this country they're 3 until they hit puberty, which they're now hitting at like 10, by the way. Like, kids are going through puberty Women are fully pregnant at 12 years old, smoking cigs on welfare, and it's because they're eating these little waffle bites and little pancake crisps and all kinds of weird fruity dinner. And you know what they really are is little tranny bites because because it does change, and people become trans from the breakfast cereal. They have the thing with the, Count Chocula and then the Smacks, that frog, all of these things. So these kids are poisoned with little, French toast, hot fudge sundae, little, they'll put like a little, like some type of like uh, little mini cake, and then that becomes a cereal, like a, you know, right. Right. Common sweeteners may be accelerating puberty in kids. Yeah, whatever. It's not a science show. I'm not going to go into the whole thing here. But my point is that all of these sugar cereals drive your kids insane. They spike your insulin, they crash. And God, and by the way, anyone who's genuinely trans, we obviously love and support you. Look at me. I'm literally identifying as a rabbi right now. But, I think, there's a lot of like, hey, a little social contagion. I want to be cool too, which is fine. Um, and not for every, it's more the women that are doing that, the women, the trans women. The dudes who want to be women are kind of more legit. And then also, like, some of the women who want to be men are clearly legit. But I just say, hey, everyone, let's not do the hormones early. Let's just wait a little bit until we're totally sure, totally certain. And then you do you. I don't care. It doesn't matter. But we don't care about your kids' mental health. We would not feed them the food we do if we cared about their mental health. We never would do that. We wouldn't, the diet of everything they get really in this country, the pressure that's put on them, all these kids that have to get into Ivy League schools, some of them kill themselves. There was a school in LA, Harvard Westlake. These kids were under so much pressure to get into top colleges that I believe they hung themselves, or one of them might have shot themselves. I'm just saying how terrible it is, the pressure that is put on children in this country to excel. Now, the opposite of that is my fat, useless parents putting no pressure on me to do anything. Also not good, by the way, footnote. But I'm just saying we don't care about the kids' health. The reason that we wanted to ban TikTok had nothing to do with bullying, and it had nothing to do with mental health. It was the fact that kids were starting to look at the world and go, why is this like this? Why is this happening? Why is everybody getting killed? And then parents had to have these really uncomfortable conversations with their children about the fact that, hey, it's just part of the game. It's part of the game. It's part of the game. So that they had to ban TikTok, which didn't work, but they did try. And who knows, it may soon work. We don't know. But I'm telling you right now, 2 tragic years at LA's most elite private school. At Harvard Westlake, 4 students, 2 alumni, and 1 parent have all taken their own lives. And that's very sad. All right, I don't want to read the article, but I'm not lying to you. It's true. And a lot of these people are taking their own lives because they're under pressure to succeed and to excel. And we do that to children, whether it's in sports, whether it's in academics. So we're not a country that prioritizes anybody's mental health. Nobody's. Not adults. Not adults. Not adult. We don't prioritize anybody's mental health. We don't. We never have. We don't. So anytime somebody goes, actually, we got to start thinking about the mental health, there's another agenda. It's easy to see. There's actually another agenda. Does this come across as anti-Semitic with the curls? I'm only wondering with the curls because this is how the costume came at Spirit Halloween. Many people ask me all the time about online businesses and online commerce, e-commerce. Most people ask me about this when they're down on their luck. People that are suffering from food insecurity or houselessness will often ask me about e-commerce and online activity. Can I run a business online is what many of them will say. And I will tell them, absolutely you can. But the biggest issue that most online businesses have, is scaling. How do you scale? And I explain this to people. I go out in the streets to missions, to all these different places, and I explain this to people. And ShipStation is the answer because users of ShipStation report scaling 3 times faster than average, allowing them to reinvest more into their business with the time and money that they are saving, ShipStation allows you to automate shipping tasks and manage orders in an easy-to-use dashboard. I'm telling you, I love ShipStation because I've seen friends go from fledgling mom and pop businesses to literally some of the largest companies you'll ever see using ShipStation because they can ship. I have a friend that makes little doodads and knickknacks for the holidays and ships them to people. And people love them because they're made with care. Okay, they're not made in China with communism. They're made by people in America who sit in their homes and make the little pieces, and maybe it'll be an animal on a frozen lake or pond, or maybe it'll be a tree. Whatever it is, maybe it's a little turkey, gobble gobble. What it is, these are the little knickknacks. When you walked into your grandmother's house when you were young, and she would have these little knickknacks, you understood what life was about. Okay, now everything is cold and modern. It's like a neurologist's office, and you walk into a holiday, and it looks like someone's going to tell you have a tumor because there's nothing in anyone's home. Everything is about finishes, slate gray, black, satanic stone, reminds you of Mordor. Okay, it reminds you of the ring. It reminds you of power. Okay, you look at the way these homes are designed and the way these kitchens are designed, and the theme of a lot of these homes is the only God is death. And that is not what we're trying to do here. We want to have an e-commerce business with little knickknacks, little things. You could ship them out, little fun things, little, misery, all the penguins faced on what, having these little ceramic things in a house makes a family mean something. Okay. And my friend has this little business where they'll make something fun and they ship it. And they use ShipStation because it allows them to centralize label printing, order management, tracking, returns, and inventory in one easy to use platform. So you don't have to manage your back office. Your back office is being managed for you. It's being automated. It's kind of amazing. And then you can also sell the little things that you do. It's so important to have these things in your home. People call them clutter. That's what people. We had a lot of these anti-clutter shows, like that Japanese woman Marie Kondo, and Hoarders, where they found the most extreme examples of clutter. Basically, people that had mental problems, and they said, "Oh, we should clean them out." And the result of this has been the destruction of culture in America, little by little, trinket by trinket. Fun little ashtray from Key West, gone. Okay, little snow globe from Vegas, gone. We call them clutter, but they're kitschy little knickknacks that used to fill our lives with pride and joy, okay? And you used to be able to say, we went on a trip and we got this little ashtray, we got a fun little whatever, we got a mug, okay? Now you go to Anguilla with your friends, and the only thing you could say is, oh, we got away with that girl we murdered. Hey, we murdered a girl, and we got away with it because her body went out to sea. Thank God the tides went that way. She didn't wash back up, okay? But there was one time in this country when you would go and you would drive somewhere in Winnebago and get fun knickknacks, okay? You didn't go with your boss to Anguilla and your friend and break a woman's neck and then put her in the ocean, and then the tides brought her out to sea because it was some type of riptide event, and then her body was eaten by sharks and it didn't wash up on the beach, because if it did, there would have been DNA tests and they would have called you back there and it would have been a whole big thing. But it wasn't, okay? But that's not the way it used to be. You used to walk in on Thanksgiving and there'd be a little table in the living room with knickknacks and trinkets from fun little places, and a lot of them were religious. A lot of them were religious. And these little knickknacks and trinkets and fun little baskets with little robin's eggs and little birds and little animals, little cute little ceramic foxes, and maybe a little guy playing a fiddle, that was better, okay, than going to Anguilla and committing a murder. You murdered someone on a beach, okay? Whether it was an accident or not, and I don't buy that it was an accident, you did it. You did it, and it'll haunt you, and you see her face every time you close your eyes. You can also automate repetitive or tedious tasks to save time and reduce errors, because there are so many errors that you make when you are just focusing on the most important part of your business, which is the origination of leads and the sales. Sales is the engine of any business. Sales and marketing. Content is king, marketing is queen. Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V, actually. What I'm saying is that there's a revolution happening, a return to clutter, a return to stuff, a return to things, a return to mementos, a return to memorabilia. And I think a lot of this is very good and very positive. And I think that if people don't start embracing things like this, okay, it's going to be we're going to live in a very empty clinical hellscape where people are just literally going to islands and murdering people and getting away with it, okay? Upgrade to shipping software that does more than keep up with your business. ShipStation propels it forward. Start your 60-day free trial at ShipStation.com and use code Tim Dillon. That's ShipStation.com, code Tim Dillon. But my point is this. If we had TikTok during the Iraq War, kids would have been going nuts. You know, people were flipped out during the Iraq War, and they were only watching that heavily edited cable news. We had the internet, but you weren't, you know, there were documentaries made, but you weren't getting that live up to the minute, live feed of what was going on in the world, right? Now you are confronted with every horror. So there is no more news. Here's my point. This is the point. There's always a point. Actually, there is. There's no more news. The news doesn't exist. The news doesn't really exist anymore. Everything is pretty accessible now. You can watch the speeches being given by a lot of the people that are making news. You can watch a war zone on your phone. Does it look like they're avoiding civilian casualties? You know what I mean? All of this is very accessible to you, and you can see it and go, huh, there is no news. Doesn't really matter what Barry Weiss does with the CBS. Doesn't really matter. These institutions are done. We are getting it direct from the source now. We're getting it directly from the regions of the world that it is happening. That doesn't mean we're not subject to misinformation and AI and eventually deep fakes and all of that. Obviously, we are. But you have more information now, raw information, in your hand than you've ever had before. Children that are growing up right now are never going to go back to watching the CBS evening news. They're never going to go back to watching the CBS evening news. God bless the Ellisons and Paramount and whoever. It's just a dying brand. It's a dinosaur. The medium is crumbling. They have lost the public. And more importantly, they've lost young people completely, because young people are realizing they're being propagandized at a level that older people gladly accepted. It was normal. It was fine. Older people were okay with being propagandized as long as they got a few things out of it. The young people are getting nothing out of it. Wait, you're lying to us and I can't own a house? I can barely have a job? I have to be forced into the gig economy? I get to deliver burritos? And I have to listen to this bullshit? And I have to pretend that this is all real? And I can't afford frozen yogurt with my girlfriend? And I have to go along with this horse shit? And I have nothing and no money for it? If you're doing something, you want to get something out of it. If you are going to delude yourself and believe the bullshit on the news, you have to get a little bit out of it. And what Americans got for many years was a patch of dirt, a little driveway, and a chance. They don't have any of that anymore. We've taken that all away from them. We've pushed them into a gig economy. We've pushed them into the hellscape of rent that goes up every single year. And the propaganda is actually getting worse. It's getting more disconnected from reality, more Orwellian. We're asking them to believe crazier and crazier things and taking away the little bit that most people had. People don't want to be billionaires. People want a house, a family, a little retirement plan, some money in the bank if there's an emergency. They want health care. They want some kind of steady job. They want a community with people that share their values. They're getting none of that right now. They're getting none of that. They're getting Kris Jenner's third head. Kris Jenner has a third head. And everybody's excited by it. People will tell you, the people that don't have any of those things will tell you that they like Kris Jenner's new head, or they're excited that Taylor Swift, a billionaire, is going to marry Travis Kelce, the man who was birthed by Pfizer. And people have to live vicariously now through that. Why are the kids turning on the engines of propaganda? Number one, they're too smart. The technology is there. They know they're being lied to. Here's number two. You're taking all of the things away from them that this entire system was supposedly, purportedly set up to help them achieve. So if I'm a member of the ruling class, I'm going, what are we doing here? What exactly is happening? We're asking these people to believe this bullshit that Jeffrey Epstein's just like a weirdo rich guy. No one else did anything wrong. We don't have any of the files, and the videos aren't real. It's actually nothing. Nothing happened. Everything's fine. He never had any relationship with our intelligence agency or another intelligence agency. He had no relationships with anybody. Nobody did anything. He was just a weird rich guy. Don't worry about it. We're asking people to believe all of this stuff and telling them, and the reward for that, okay, is to deliver a Caesar salad to someone. That's the reward. Your job now is to deliver a Caesar salad. Not that it would have been right to buy the bullshit anyway, even if you had the things. But I'm just telling you how the country ran for 100 years. That's what I'm telling you. I'm not saying it was morally correct to go, I'll take the house and the car and you fucking kill everybody. I'm telling you that's how it worked. That's how the country ran forever. You shut your mouth and you go, I don't want to get into that. I don't know. Yeah, it's a government lab. Kids are disappearing. Shut up. Eat your lasagna. Your mother made lasagna. That's the way it worked. Now everybody's, in a broken home, trying to get some job as a personal assistant, for some woman who's on her third head. So you're scrounging around your car to find change to get Del Taco, and you're getting a call from a woman who's bandaged up because she has her third head, and she's asking you to go to the pharmacy for her and get the injection she needs to inject into her face so that it doesn't fall off. And then you're going on your phone and all you hear is, help me, I'm being burned. My family is being burned. Why are you doing this to me? Why are you burning me? Do you see how it's an unsustainable model? Do you see that? Do you understand that? Am I completely... You know what's interesting about these Trader Joe's bagels? They look better than you think they would. They actually aren't. "9/11." Not good. I'm an alcoholic unless I would try the wine. Prize Picks, run your game. Prize Picks, run your game. Prize Picks, run your game. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks when it's good to be right. I mean, the football season is coming up. You got to get ready for the season, and you've got to get your bank account ready for the holidays. How do you do two things at once? Okay, I'll tell you right now. It's going to be so much fun. You got to download the Prize Picks app. It's a simple way to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, okay? Saquon Barkley, more or less than 1 rushing TDs. Joe Burrow, more or less than 2.5 passing yards. Josh Allen, more or less than 270 passing yards. Folks, it's so easy.
Prize Picks is also the best way to get action on sports in more than 40 states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. They put their users first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. Prize Picks offers Venmo, Apple Pay, MasterCard, and more for quick and easy deposits into your account this football season. Download the app today and use code TAM to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code TAM to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. I just went through a process with trying to help my friend get an apartment. Credit is so important, folks. I'm telling you right now, if you're struggling with credit, use this service. Let's be honest. When your credit is not in great shape, it can feel like the whole system is working against you. You could be smart with your money, pay your bills, do everything right, and still get penalized. In fact, drivers with low credit scores end up paying 118% more on full coverage auto insurance than those with excellent credit. But that's where Kickoff comes in. It's a smarter, faster way to start building real credit without the usual headaches. I'm telling you, I discovered Kickoff, and it was so good. I recommended it to my friend with credit problems, and he's doing much better now. Users with credit under 600 grew an average of 84 points in their first year with on-time payments. With transparent, affordable plans starting at just $5 a month, no hidden fees, and zero interest, Kickoff helps you score big when it all comes to credit. It's simple. You make on-time payments, credit bureaus see good behavior, and your credit can grow fast. It's so affordable and easy and effective. That's what I like about it. It's affordable, easy, and effective. Many things are just affordable and easy and not effective. Some things are effective and easy but not affordable. Some things are affordable and effective but not easy. Some things are effective, affordable, and easy, but they support international terrorist organizations. So when it's affordable, easy, and, it's good. Start building credit with Kickoff today, and you can get your first month for as little as $1. That's 80% off the normal price. You go to getkickoff.com/Tim today, GETKIKOFF.com/Tim. Okay. Must sign up via getkickoff.com to activate offer. Offer applies to new Kickoff customers first month only, subject to approval. Offer subject to change. Average first year credit score impacted plus 84 points. Vantage score 3. Between January 2023 and January 2024 for Kickoff credit account users who started with a score below 600, who paid on time and who had no delinquencies or collections added to their credit profile during the period. Late payments may negatively impact your credit score. Individual results may vary. But my point is this, and again, nothing about this suggests cultural insensitivity. I hope it doesn't. It's a costume sold at Spirit. I was trying to get a Schreimel, actually. And I called very connected people, very high up. And unfortunately, because it's Saturday, and it's, what do they call it, Shabbat? I couldn't get a Schreimel. So I'm in my car, and we pulled over. I was with a friend of mine, and then we're going through this very Orthodox area of Los Angeles. And yes, go, make it big. That's how I was going to show up here. That's exactly what I was going to do, but we couldn't, so we had to go to fucking Spirit Halloween. You'd think I'd be past this in my career, but I'm not. And I'm making an important point about the global nature of whatever. Here's the point. We're in my car. We're driving through a Los Angeles, a very Orthodox area, and there was, what were they, 15 or 16? Yeah, there was a bunch of kids running around in the garb. So we pull over the rollie, and I said, and it's Jewish kids, so, they're obviously it's weird to just talk to random children, right? It's odd, obviously. Not for everyone in our country. Ugh. Okay? But I say, come here. I call them over. And I called them over, and I said, hey, what's up? Can I ask you a question? They go, yeah. I go, the hat, the Schreimel, could I get one? And they go, hey, man. They go, we're not that sect. They go, are you Jewish? I go, no, but my car is. And they laughed. It got a laugh. And then I said, I'm a comedian, and I want a Schreimel for something I'm doing. And they go, what's your name? And I go, Tim Dillon. He goes, my mom listens to you. And I said, thank you. Thank you for the support from all the communities. And then we joked around a little bit with them, and they were explaining to us that the Schreimel's a whole different thing. And it's a lot of money. One of the kids goes, it's expensive. And I was like, we got it. But beautiful interaction there, and I actually believe in all of the cultures getting together. I really do. But what I'm saying here is that get this out of here now, please. I'm just staring at this picture of the Schreimel, but I do love the hat. But we tried to do better than this. But at the end of the day, we had to go to Spirit Halloween and Bevmo and get this little set. But what my point here, if there is a point, and there always is a point, is that I'm excited to see what Barry does with CBS. I really am. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what it is. I'm happy about it. I hopefully I will be considered to be a correspondent. I think I have the look for it. And I'm very bullish on the future of at least the next 6 months to a year of whatever train wreck that will be, because down the road, it's all the kids are off. You're turning it off. All of these people think they can wrestle younger people back to these platforms and back to the bullshit. It's not going to happen. It's certainly not going to happen when none of them, can afford bottled water. It's certainly not going to happen. You can't impoverish and immiserate and sink a bunch of people into debt and then say, and hey, and we got a bunch of fairy tales for you all to believe now. And now it's story time. Hey, you're all broke? You're all broke and have nothing? Now it's story time. Now we're going to tell you how it all works. Jeffrey Epstein was a magical magician that lived in a castle. Like, you can't have people running around, chomping Adderall, staying up till 3 in the morning, writing a dissertation on God knows what to get a meaningless degree that they have shoved all of their hopes and dreams into that's going to result in nothing. They're in mountains of debt. They're living in a little complex, and they're spending way too much of their money on rent, car insurance. They have no health care. They hope to God nothing happens to them. They're going to urgent care. They're buying Z-Packs off the street. And then they're trying to date each other, trying to find someone to love and to commit to and have a family with. It's all very difficult. It's all incredibly difficult, all the while being told they're special and unique geniuses. And this entire period of their life is going to be very valuable to them. When they're incredibly successful, they can turn around and talk about how the hard times built character. It's the mother load, as Sam Harris, our friend, would say, the mother load of bad ideas to tell a bunch of people that they should spend most of their life being delusional psychopaths, hoping that things work out. And I think people are waking up a little bit and going, that doesn't really make sense anymore. And I think some of the stories you're telling me are also responsible for why I'm in the position I'm in. People are kind of waking up to that. They're going, I think the Epstein thing's a lie, but I also think that I'm going to be okay is a lie. And if I work hard and I'm honest is a lie. And if I obey the rules is a lie. And if I'm respectful of other people, it's a lie. And if I don't call things out that are blatantly obvious to everyone, it's a lie. I think all of the lies are actually enforcing all of the other lies, and I don't want to believe any of them, and it's radicalizing quite a few people. Not me, look at me, I'm fine. But most people out there having real problems with radicalization. I'm seeing this. Younger people to the far left, to the far right, and even worse, to Taylor Swift. That's even more disturbing. I mean, I've spoken to narco-communists and Nazis, and there is nothing more disturbing than talking to someone who's really, really, really into Taylor Swift. There's something very disturbing about that. At least there's a historical precedent for being a Stalinist or a Nazi. This fucking Taylor Swift fucking shit is absurd. It's extreme, and there's no way to contextualize it in a way that makes me hopeful at all for the future. Nazis eventually lose. So do communists, historically. But these Swifties, I don't know. I don't know that they will lose. The breed of normie that they represent, I feel, is going to do a tremendous amount of damage and already is to our society. This breed of white Converse shoe wearing, Austin City limits going idiot that runs around eating caviar and following influencers and believing that life is about going on vacations. These people are going to destroy civilization at a faster pace than any of the political radicals, in my estimation. In my estimation. Everybody loves Helix mattresses. When people come and stay with me, they go, why are these mattresses so good? And I go, Helix. They go, really? I go, yeah, they ship them right to your door, and they're the best mattresses in the world. There's nothing worse than mattress shopping. All those people that work in those stores are creeps. They're watching you lay down. Something wrong with them. Helix is amazing. You can take a short quiz to find out what kind of sleeper you are. Are you a side sleeper, a back sleeper? Do you sleep on your stomach? Are you a hot sleeper? What ails you? Sleep is so important. All the new studies coming out are saying people that don't sleep are going cuckoo. And you don't want to be that. You don't want to be a cuckoo. You want to be a person who sleeps, a nice deep sleep, mountain air, salt air for the sea. And you sleep in a nice slumber and you dream and you have dreams about walking in the meadow and it's nice. And if you don't have a nice mattress, that's not what happens. You wake up constantly, you're tossing, you're turning, you're kind of insane. If you don't really sleep, you're technically kind of drunk, you're not getting enough oxygen to your brain, you're wandering around, you're angry, you lash out at people, sometimes violently. You are a danger to yourself and others. You're putting yourself in a bad position with friends and family. Some people may get in car accidents. They may be performing tasks with heavy machinery and injure themselves. They could be driving a boat and not realize they're not in enough water and actually end up on kind of a sandbar. All of this can happen if you're not properly rested. Helix is here for your sleep. You can sleep easy no matter what you did on Helix. You may have killed someone in a car accident and gotten away with it. But with a Helix mattress, you sleep soundly all night, no problems. Waking up maybe once to use the restroom. Look at yourself in the mirror and go, I can do this. I can do it. I'll just get up tomorrow like nothing happened. If you've killed someone in a car accident but got away with it in a hit and run, you need a mattress that is a good sleeper. Helix.com/TimD.
Tim D.
Helix.com/TimD if you've done a horrible thing and you need to sleep it off. Helix. TimDillonComedy.com for any of your live needs. We're on the road this fall, and then this winter we'll be in other places, but we're getting the hour together in some of the best clubs in America and then moving on to theaters. But you can see me in Columbus, Ohio. You could see me in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, or Abu Dhabi. You could see me in Oklahoma City, in Phoenix, Arizona, in Fort Lauderdale, in Chicago, in San Jose, in Salt Lake City. You could see me in Chicago, I think I said. You can see me as well in Orange County, California, in Brea, and you can see me in Colorado. Tim Dillon Comedy, and Houston, TimDillonComedy.com. That'll take us through January. That is the rub. Much success to Barry Weiss. Much success, Mazel. And we are very excited, and hopefully we'll be chosen as a correspondent for the reinvention of CBS News. And you know what this means with Barry taking over CBS? The last two words that octogenarians are going to say before they collapse into cardiac arrest on their couch is human shields. They're going to go, they use them as human shields. What are they supposed to do?
You can tell we are excited about this. Can't wait. I tell you, man, last night I almost couldn't fall asleep. Just thinking about all the things we saw and how exciting the day was and everything we had in store for you guys today.
Me neither.
I just wanted to come back and get this going. Good morning, good morning. Come on, let's go. Switzerland takes the carpet. The spear is the king of all weapons.
Interesting choice.
I love that phrase.
Interesting choice. Threading the spear around behind her. Liao Zhang, uppercut or lifting palm. Shuai Qiang, throwing or slamming the spear on the ditan or the carpet. Getting ready for her first pass. Jump front kick. Aerial, not sure I heard the slap on that kicking foot there.
I didn't.
Tornado horse dance. Ooh, her toes were
Little
raised.
sway,
Looks like
huh?
she may get a deduction for that, although she completed the Nanju. Wu Huaqiang, that is the figure 8 or dancing flower basic with the spear. Jump front kick aerial, into a jump outside 360 into a cross sitting stance. Not sure that jump front kick was at shoulder level either. Beng Qiang, collapsing down with the wrist to tilt up the tip of the spear. And see, there we have that Jia Qiang, that framing or blocking overhead. This is where we want to see that great thoracic and shoulder flexibility and extension. That's how you see the mark of a great Qiangshu expert. There we have the Lan Na Zha Qiang, that is the block outside or parry outside, inside, and then thrust or stab with the spear. That is a signature technique of the Qiang or spear. Zheng Ti Tui, front stretch kick. Xu Bu, empty your cat stance. Paul, throwing and then catching the spear. Beautifully done. Look at how she threads that around her body. Tiao Ba, rising up with the handle of the spear, and that's it.
Wow, absolutely amazing. Good way to start the day. And
Please,
Italy takes the carpet.
There we have the Lan Na Zha Qiang. Beng Qiang. Jump front kick into jump outside 540 into a cross sitting stance. Jump front kick, aerial, not sure I heard the slap on that kick. Beng Qiang again. Xunzi, nice extension on that butterfly kick into a cross sitting stance.
Beautifully done.
There's that Pi Qiang, and then Jiao Qiang, and then look at that Jia Qiang. Great extension on that shoulder and that opening of the chest. Do you see that? You need a lot of thoracic flexibility, which means you need to be, you can't be stiff. You have to be flexible. You have to be smooth with this.
重庆熊泽淼最后的分9.263分，2号上场，3号准备。江西周雨辰最后得分9.216分，3号上场，5号准备。 号上场，7号准备。安徽邓伟峰最后得分9.176分。浙江徐8号准备，最后得分9.583分。7号上场，8号准备。 山西高晓松最后得分9.803分。8号上场，9号准备。海南石子豪最后得分7.990分。
9号上场，10号准备。
分9.496分。10号上场，11号准备。上海体育大学刘昭赫最后得分9.750分。11号上场，12号准备。 内蒙古徐徐哲最后得分9.773分。12号上场，13号准备。江苏吴兆华最后得分9.740分。13号上场，14号准备。福建苏洪涛最后得分 9.636分。14号上场，15号准备。河南王艳梅最后得分9.520分。15号上场，16号准备。 福建郑哲元最后得分9.570分。16号上场，17号准备。煤矿体协杜彩虹最后得分9.240分。17号上场，18号准备。 河南张丹峰最后得分9.656分。18号上场，19号准备。山西施川海最后得分9.456分。19号上场，20号准备。 广东李苏婉最后得分9.645分。20号上场，21号准备。北体大姚傲龙最后得分9.660分。21号上场，22号准备。 周、史迪硕，最后得分9.403分。22号上场，23号准备。新疆贾福新最后得分9.693分。23号上场，24号准备。 山东安舒章最后得分9.596分。24号上场，25号准备。江青丁家生最后得分9.083分。25号上场，26号准备。上海周逸聪最后得分9.0 26号上场，27号准备。云南李俊杰最后得分9.690分，27号上场，28号准备。北京理想最后得分9.383分，28号上场，29号准备。 江叶启南最后得分9.736分。29号上场，30号准备。甘肃郭润最后得分9.760分。30号上场，31号准备。 河北王成林最后得分9.253分。31号上场，32号准备。四川高9上最后得分9.763分。32号上场，33号准备。 零下王一淼最后得分8.903分。33号上场，34号准备。天津蒋真最后得分9.536分。34号上场，35号准备。 四川王朗可最后得分9.693分。35号上场，36号准备。36号上场，38号准备。云南何金强最后得分9.733分。
making it worse. I want that boy in the bag, and I ain't talking to purse.
Pink
I'm talking
broom.
about that in the hearse. Like 6 feet deep in the dirt, nigga.
What is that? You got that emote? Beside that, that's like the best Twitch global emote ever. It's the only good one. It's a good badge. Who the fuck is Young Toady? They remember Pink Broom. Welcome, welcome. Try not to die. Beat up a bag. Or you like working out? I hear a zombie. Where you at? Oh, this is just all bad. What is that? It's just gold. I don't need fucking gold. The creeper. Kinda wish it was a bag of weed, true. I wish I could smoke. Been a while. 4 torches left. Oh man. Coming up? Oh, there's another one. Maybe I shouldn't go that way. It's not like I'm gonna find anything. Some iron. Okay, I mean, I'll take it, but we're kind of doing good on iron. I don't need the iron. Holy shit. Was that the zombie or was that the thing in the video? Because I think this video does that at the start. More iron, some coal, finally. This song is so good. There we go, finally. An actual coal source. Oh, there's a lot here, hell yeah. I hear lava too. Oh, I missed the iron. Sentry, you gotta bury me. go back. And if I have enough torches, I'm going back in the fucking tunnels. I don't like being out here. I still feel safer in these caves than I do the overworld. I think I came from this way.
Glock 23 tucked in these briefs, it cost for these Amirs. Got 20,000 in these pockets, my belt BB Simmons. New stolen car fresh on the block, that bitch a Honda Civic.
Somebody came down here, I think.
Got me stressing, think about La Bibis. I fell in love with every gun, I'm married to the trenches. Ain't seeing eye to eye, my brother, right now we seeing different. This ain't the media, the internet, or the blogs business.
Did I come from up here? Emerald, nice. I mean, that's new at least. There is safety here. Yeah, you just gotta be one with it. Oh, another one of you. Blow up. More coal, let's go. Get out the white. Hell yeah. We got more coal and iron here than we'll ever get down in the tunnels that I dig. Look at all this. Holy shit. Alright, it was a good idea to come down here. Probably can't even see, it's really dark, but I'm out of torches. Can't, no. You could probably turn the gamma up. Where's it at? Brightness. Okay, you see a little bit better. A bunch of copper we don't need. Copper everywhere here. Look at all this shit. I kind of want to get it. I don't know what I'll do with copper, but they have copper golems now. Kind of want to make one of them. Like a horror game. Minecraft is a horror game. I know it looks like. This game is horrifying. Before you got here earlier, we were hearing thunder when I was under the earth. We were like 2 blocks above bedrock and we're hearing thunder. How the fuck does that work? Dude, the copper doesn't end. Why am I getting all this? Silent Minecraft. Basically. Alright, I'm leaving some of this copper. I can't get all this shit. I just keep going deeper. I shouldn't. The coal is tempting. We need to go back home before we die. Wait, what did I have in this spot? I don't remember. torches. Yeah, you're right. True. Okay. I'm just retarded. Dude, we got so much coal now. Hell yeah. Torches for days. If I can find my way out. I see Deeble. Cobbled Deep Slate. Oh, I was here earlier. Shit. Okay, I was up here. Oh, god damn it. This was just one of the little corners I came up into. I know it ain't that way. I can't remember. Did I come down somewhere and then have to go back up, or? I can name over 30 dead ops. Like, was it up this way? No. I remember this spot though, I think. They hooked the same night. Shoot back. Nutty sample. It's so good. The other guy that was like his op or whatever used it first, but obviously Folio's is the best. Young and Ace fucking sucks. Sounds like just like every other singing auto-tune bullshit rapper. Who I smoke, Lil Connie, Big Meechy. Yeah, right. Ace, you a bitch. Dude, I think we found our way out. Hell yeah. The power of Folio. Let's go. I got him a present, but he dead. He can't celebrate. It's the most disrespectful motherfucker ever. It is not even a competition. Freedom. Breathe it in. Happy birthday. All right. We got a good bit of iron too. That's pretty good. You a ho ho. I need to put these wheat seeds back. Here's where Dell is building David. Della said their brain shrank, so they don't remember all of the stuff they used to know about Minecraft. Where can I put these emeralds? Who uses emeralds? I ain't using this shit. There. Lizard's got 30 of them. Jesus Christ. What is this? Oh, it's the bee thing. I think that keeps the bees, like, sedated or some shit. I don't know. Yeah, of course, they got a fortress already. Everyone has one except me. I just live in the earth. I'm like a fucking... What are they called? Like a hermit? Oh, zombie. Get him, son. literal troll living in a cave. You're not wrong. Look at all this shit. Where'd these guys come from? I know it's whatever metalhead was digging up. Maybe it's right there. Metalhead leaving fucking holes all over the earth, and trees up in the sky and shit. Alright, is this where they're coming from? Who the fuck dug this out? Looks like a creeper thing. But there's a lot of areas around here like this. Like, somebody must have been detonating creepers everywhere. I had to put a torch down there just to... Like, what the fuck? Oh my god, there's just shit everywhere. Yeah, I told you, Twisted, the sun kills the mobs. They come out of darkness, or come out at night, or wherever they come from, and then the sun burns them. Yeah, I started zombies. What? Yeah, I put the seats back. Okay. I thought I forgot. Don't need this shit. Okay. We need to make torches. Alright. Yes, so many torches. We need to get more leaves to burn shit. Hella torches. Now we need diamonds, because we're at a deficit. I had 18 diamonds, we're down to 9. I had to make all these new picks. I should get a bucket of lava too when I'm down there. I know there's lava in like 3 different places we found. We just need the iron to get done first. What the fuck was that? I keep hearing shit, dude. This is the worst place I could have made a little home.
What is black, guys?
If you can call us a home. Almost there. Actually, before nighttime, I need to collect some more leaves. I'm pretty sure that these respawn, because I don't think I got these. Suicide. Leaky? I think he liked Leaky as much as he liked Corbin. hear that fucker's name in like every song. Lil Leaky. I'm glad they created this leaves are fuel thing. Because fuck using charcoal. I need that, or coal. I need that for torches. And if I had to use that to cook stuff or smelt stuff, then I'd have no torches. I'll clean up Della's little staircase area. I was in London, probably. How much is that? Probably good for now. Get a little more. How do I have 7 viewers? Who the fuck is watching this at 3 a.m.? Oh, my internet. What is happening? With the Reaper. Oh, I'm dropping frames too. My internet's actually fucking up. Is it gonna like level out? It looks like it's okay now. Running out of room in this chest. I don't need this blue shit. Somebody can use it. Somebody that's not me. Was that another creeper? I swear something else blew up. Dude, that would have been real. Did it blow up here? No, there's no way. It would have been deeper. Oh, doggy. Material things. Wasn't there a magic stuff chest? That was the song. What song? I didn't even notice this farm. Huh? What are you doing? Buddy. Can I get him out of here without killing him? We might just have to kill him. Sorry, buddy. The explosion was the song? Dude, I am so retarded. I got 5 stars. Whoa. Hey, buddy. Tons of copper. I don't need any of this shit. I hope I covered up whatever area those mobs are coming from, but I don't think so since there's skeletons there. I'm blaming Metalhead. We did not have mobs like this before. Alright, we'll just let all this shit cook. And then we'll go back down.
My little brother killed for me, don't ever have to steal from me. I see what the devil see, them demons taking over me. God still controlling me, off purpose, I can't roll in peace. I be where the killers be, the only kind relate to me. Stolen car, got limo tent, I'm top off like.
Wait, I thought we heard this song. Do I have this on here twice?
Them demons keep on trailing me. Ain't no love inside of me. I know this block gon' ride for me. Vontae Line gon' die for me.
No, we don't.
I'm trying to step on all my art, complete the job on site. Dog died, I was wearing Cali on the flight.
I listened to this earlier today, so maybe I'm just losing it.
They ran down with 2 choppers, but I was shooting bite. I'm a cold blood killer creeping through the night. Bitch, I'm riding down the turner clutching on my pipe. How lean, but I ain't leaking, I'm focused at this light.
Alright, let's get some lava before I forget. Okay. Wait, I don't think it's this way. And I have no idea where anything is down here. There's the lava. Wait, I don't see anything dripping now. The lava disappeared? It's obsidian now. Doesn't that mean that water came into contact with it? Somebody must have done that. Maybe I can keep going this way then. Nope. Alright. God damn it. Now it's just everywhere. Whatever. Night comes quick, that it does. Night seems to last forever and daytime seems to go quick. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're equal, but that's how it feels. I hear bubbling again already. Are we already at more lava? And I hear a zombie. for so many reasons. This gravel. Ugh. Not worth it to go this way.
What's the word, CFO?
Try here.
Heart on my sleeve, on the 6 with 223s. I was so eager like Alicia, I just wanted keys. On the on the V,
Like Alicia, I just wanted keys. True.
popping seals, popping pills, you can't tell me chill. Got my Glock popping ops and confirming kills. And the scat doing the dash, can't control the wheel. All this pain I endure, they don't know how I feel. I'm counting.
Yep, I just leave all that red shit there. If people need it, then they've got a lot of free red shit they can go get. Again, it's like super useful, but not if you're a fucking ape like I am.
What's the point of fucking winning? You can't feed your people. I done ran my rats up like my name Serena. And I can't see a thing like on John Cena. I don't know if you know, I don't know if they told you. Six from the bricks, I'm a motherfucking soldier. Keep that shit 100 like a motherfucking poster. It's a bird, it's a plane, nah,
nigga, it's a vulture.
It's a bird, it's a plane, nah, nigga, it's my hit, man. No, I'm fucking leaning like a motherfucking kid stand. Get your ass slapped if I hear that ox shit playing. Rolling out my body, pop 2 perks and pop 3. I don't know if you know, I don't know if they told you. Big 6 from the bricks, I'm a motherfucking soldier. It's a bird, it's a plane, it's a motherfucking vulture. Keep that shit 100 like a motherfucking poster. Lane to lane swerving, just me and Visa in that Honda. 6-figure nigga, boy, I put that on my mama. Mama, bro, I slime your ass out in the comments. Niggas lie to the gang and tell the truth to your honor. Get your ass shot.
Tell the truth to your honor. Dude, this guy was great.
Kill him on the scene, he won't get to see no doctor. All these nigga fucking crowds, there's some motherfucking losses. Hating on the low, they don't wanna see me prosper. Dissing on the 6, get them dead just like Prosper. The way I speak the truth can write a book.
It's like if a good internet troll was just placed into the drill rap scene.
I don't know if you know, I don't know if they told you. Deep in the streets where my heart got colder, feelings got sober.
It's a bizarre clash of worlds.
It's a plane, nah, nigga, it's a vulture. Nigga, it's a vulture.
Where are the diamonds, bro? We've gone 2, now almost 3. No, this would be 2, I think. Diamond picks with no diamonds.
What's the word, CFO?
I can't believe I called you my brother. When I get $1 million, boy, the arts in trouble. I'm trying to score LeBron James, I need a triple double. I'm trying to bust a nigga brain and leave it in the puddle. How the fuck you can judge me? You don't even know my struggle. I love Kojak at the death, man, he like no other. And fuck 12, they just wanna see us kill each other. I'm finally rich, I remember when I used to suffer. Steady swinging like a rose, it's a murder one. Saw my deal and
Oh
I
my
bought
god.
100 stolen guns. And free Cracker Jack, they locked him up without a bun. He just beat his celly up for his soup and lunch. My own cousin had cut me, I ain't predict that. I saw magic, how the fuck a snake turned rat. This shit like voodoo, how the fuck a snake turned cat. I want revenge, what you did to me gon' get you back. I'm all in, spin the bin, let's go tit for tat. Face shot gang, swear to God, we invented that. Caught your favorite fucking shooter and he ran track. If that was me, bitch, I'm busting and I'm shooting back. Dear Father God, will I ever win against the odds? Will I ever
Red
get
shit.
the win so I
Yep,
can feed
just
my squad?
awesome.
Niggas know I kept it real and I play my part. In the
I'm so
ocean,
glad that
piranha
there's an
swimming with the
abundance
sharks.
of that
Every dog
at the
gon'
bottom of
bite,
the
but they
earth.
will bark. Don't let me catch you, I'ma let that fucking heater spark. Still in the trenches, I was number 1 on the chart. Trying to paint a nigga block like a work of art.
What's the word,
I ain't
CFO?
beefing with no singer, put his life in danger. I'm a motherfucking demon rocking Palm Angels. Run that light, hit the right, man, we finna paint them. All day 24/7, strapped up with my bangles.
was dead. No diamonds. Iron. I think I got enough iron for now, okay. One. It's just insulting.